Hello again fellow Roblox players. Welcome to the Story Fire. Party.Exe is a series of official and unofficial Roblox games that has inspired more fan games and spin-offs than any other game on Roblox. It is considered the most copied and remixed game on the entire platform, with hundreds of fan games and hours of content made by the community. The fan games have caused the story of the game to expand from just a small SCP tale to an entire novel's worth of storytelling. Combining of all the games that the community considers to be official, you will have enough story to fill an entire book. I am here today to condense the lore of this incredible series of games and tell you a tale of betrayal, strategy, and a lot of hatred. I would just like to mention that a lot of the story was not in the mind of the original creator of Party.Exe, and I have modified their story to build upon the world more and give a backstory which the game originally didn't have. Let's start with the backstory of Party.Exe. There is a secret game called Party.Exe 0 that can be found if you search hard enough. It shows how the Party.Exe world started, so let's explain that game. Two men are lone survivors of a world that was destroyed by a genocidal child. They have the souls of every dead body they found stored on a computer because they know that one of them is the child who destroyed the world. This child is special because they have a strange power called determination. After they die, they are able to go back in time and try again as long as they are determined to finish their goal. But after the world collapsed, the child had no more goals and lost all determination, which made them die in the blazing fire they had created. The plan of the two men is to slowly insert the souls of the dead into their simulated world where each one will be killed. They will find the genocidal child when they fail to kill the determined soul because of its determination. Then the men will try to extract this power from the child's soul and make a new world with this power. Both men have their own role in the simulation. One of them will be a dark virus that kills any souls that enter the simulation, and the other man will be a watcher who will guide the souls to where the virus is waiting by inviting them to a fake birthday house. When a soul is killed, the host becomes a lifeless entity that is controlled by the simulation. Every soul that enters the simulation, even the two men's souls, are named as subjects in order of when they were added to the simulation. The two men, however, are named Subject 0 and Subject -1. This way they will not confuse their own names with the souls they have put into the game. The virus man who will be killing the souls is -1 and the watcher is 0. The simulation looks like a birthday party at a house in a little neighborhood, but every path in the house leads to certain death. It takes years for the child's soul to finally be inserted into the simulation, and at this point, Subject 0 is struggling to stay mentally sound and he keeps hearing voices in his head that are driving him crazy. His lab assistant, the virus, is becoming more brutal at killing fresh souls that enter the simulation because he has already gone crazy over the years of waiting for the child's soul to arrive. But one day something strange happens. A new subject is added to the simulation like usual, but magically happens to know the way to escape the simulation, which would normally require dying several times. This means that the soul has already died and used determination to go back in time and try again as many times as it needs. Subject 0 knew this was the genocidal child who destroyed their world, but the virus won't be able to help him extract the power from this child anymore because the virus has gone insane with power. So instead Subject 0 watches as the determined soul escapes the game and possesses a dead body from the lab. Subject 0 asks the child to disable the lab's life support and the child does so, killing Subject 0 and the virus. But as the evil child is escaping the lab, he hears gunfire and roars, indicating that there's more human life to kill, just like he did years ago. Who knows how humanity recovered during the time of the simulation, but oddly enough, the child no longer feels the urge to kill, maybe because he left his old body behind. If you have made it this far, great job. I know the story might be hard to follow at some points, but remember that this story has been passed on to at least 5 different people over the game's lifetime. I've removed a lot of details and just keep the necessary information. The next part of the video will be what happens next and the story of Party.Exe 2 and 3, which are my own games. I will also briefly cover Party.Exe 4, but that game is a spin-off and not part of the main story. In Party.Exe 2, the child is no longer genocidal because he has left his old and evil body behind, and he has grown into a fine young man. He has joined the military and is heading to the lab he escaped from for the purposes of an investigation mission. He was never told to go in the lab, but a strange voice starts calling out to him from the lab. He follows the voice deep into the lab, where he starts to smell a funny gas in the air which makes him black out. When he wakes up again, he sees his worst nightmare. He is back in the simulation, but it is very different and unfamiliar. There is no more plastic house, instead there is a realistic environment. The child, who we will now call the protagonist because he is not an evil child anymore, is exploring a nearby castle when he finds another test subject. This test subject seems to have already been killed by the game and is now lifeless. This lifeless subject tells the protagonist that Subject Zero caused him to be brought to the simulation again and he needs to fight off the virus that went insane many years ago. The rest of this game involves stopping the virus for good, which you succeed in, but it is unknown how Subject Zero survived when you turned his life support off years ago. Subject Zero appears to be a husk of his former self and maybe only exists as a lifeless subject in the simulation, but this is just a theory. I would also like to mention that lifeless subjects will act like a non-playable character from a video game, only having a few, but very important lines of dialogue to help the protagonist. It seems that lifeless subjects keep the most important thing they know as a memory to tell anyone who comes by. In Party.Exe 3, Subject Zero personally invites the protagonist to the simulation for a surprise party to celebrate the defeat of the virus. Subject Zero is sad that his friend became crazy with power and had to be defeated, but now is not the time to grieve. A party is about to begin. Subject Zero has set up a fun world for the protagonist to explore. After exploring for a while, he comes across a sphinx creature in the desert that is about to start a fun game with the protagonist, but as the sphinx is explaining the rules, its speech becomes corrupt and it starts saying vile things and threatening to kill the protagonist. The protagonist is then sent to a familiar environment with a plastic house and party music, but something seems different and he tries to leave through the back gate, which causes the game to glitch out. From here, this game's story starts to become quite difficult to put in words, so I would recommend playing it for yourself. I will link all of the games in the description, but basically the virus is holding on to his last energy since he was defeated in Party.Exe 2 and is trying to convince the protagonist to find a treasure that will bring the virus back alive, which leads to 2 endings depending on if you try to revive the virus or not. In both endings, Subject Zero manages to stop you either with aggression or by convincing you not to revive the virus. That wraps up the story of the 3 main games. I should hope that after Party.Exe 3 that everyone became friends again, but we can't forget the 4th game, which brings a whole new twist to the series. Party.Exe 4, also known as our Party.Exe, is an alternate reality game that brings together the same characters from Party.Exe with a whole new story. This game does not affect the main story in any way and has no connection to it, because this game is a single game with a story written by one person. It's arguably the best and easiest game to understand the story of. If you want to play it, I will link it in the description. It's the best Party.Exe game I've ever made. Comment if you like Subject Zero or not if you made it this far. Thank you for watching my video. If you didn't know, Party.Exe recently got remade with updated graphics, as you can see on screen. It is made by fans of the game and I will link it in the description. They did an incredible job on it. Thank you so much again for watching and I will see you next time.